So we've had 3 full days of presentations, working in groups, creating a video. So the purpose of this very short presentation is to kind of help you guys pull together all the things that we've been talking about and to help you articulate what your plan is for your project. So I know that some of you have come here and changed your project a little bit, so this might be a good opportunity to kind of refocus what your priorities are in your project. And what I'm going to talk about is a strategy called using a logic model. I just emailed everyone from Canvas from the announcements, so you all have an attachment of a blank template for a logic model. But first, what is a logic model? So a logic model is a strategy to help you brainstorm and then articulate your project plan. So I use logic models for individual events, for individual training sessions, for big programs. I work a lot with faculty on writing grants, and logic models are awesome for grants because it gives an overall vision of what the grant is. And people actually put my logic models in their NSF grants when they submit them because they said it kind of gives an overview to the funders on what the project is about. So it kind of helps you show who's involved, what activities you need to do, what tasks need to be completed, what your outcomes are, and what your impacts are. And by impacts, I mean down the road, how is what you're going to create here for iLead going to impact your patrons, your users at your library? Or bigger than that, how is this going to impact the historical community? Okay? It's also a way of thinking about a variety of ways to apply things. So when we look at some examples, you'll get a better idea of that. It's also a good thing because it includes program planning and evaluation. So when you lay this out, you'll be able to say, oh, I can articulate particular things that I want to assess. So I know when I do my index with my obituaries attached to that, I know what I need to see in order to assess whether that's worked or not. Okay? So here's a really simple example, and this is taken, I have some links at the end and I'll post this. This is taken from the University of Wisconsin. So if you're planning a family vacation, you have inputs, outputs, and outcomes. So your inputs would be, if you're going to go on vacation with your family, you need a car. This is going to be a camping trip. So those are all your inputs. Yesterday, Sandra helped us a lot with looking at our inputs. Who are our partners? What are the things we need to think about? Those would all be inputs into your project. Your outputs are what you're actually going to do. So if you're going to create a website, if you're going to create an app, if you're going to create whatever you're going to do for your project, what are the tasks that you have to do in order to get there? You're going to, in this case, we're going to drive to the state park, set up camp. This third one down here, this cook, play, talk, this might not be something people would think about when they go on a family vacation, but their outcome, which is family members learn about each other, since that's their outcome, this cook, play, talk becomes a very important activity. You could take a family vacation and say, I'm going to go to visit all the state parks in Utah, and that might be your outcome. So at the end, you're going to have pictures of your family in all of the state parks. So you're going to have a different output. You're going to have a camera, and you're going to take time to take pictures of your family. So your outcome determines what you're going to do with your project. So it's helpful to think about that outcome first, and then work backwards to make sure that you don't have any gaps in your inputs and your outputs. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so this is kind of what a logic model is. You have your inputs, and you have your outputs and your outcomes. These first 2 areas here are your planned work. So your team, what's your team have to do in order to achieve your project that you're planning for iLead? 3, 4, and 5 are how this project you're going to create is going to impact your community, your users. So this type of process will help you articulate a little better your fuzzy plan for your project. So you know what you're trying to do, but this will help you articulate it a little bit better. Your resources and inputs are the things you're going to need. So you have funding from the IMLS grant. You have resources. You have the team members who all have different expertise. You might have those collaborators that you identified in that exercise with Sandra. Those will all be your inputs. Your activities are what you're going to have to do. So if you're creating a digitized collection, you're going to have to scan. You're going to need equipment. So those would be your activities. Your outputs are going to be, what do you want to have maybe by the end of October? Or what do you want to have 6 months after that? So you might want to think about phasing your project. This is our priority. We want to get this done during this iLead 9-month period. After that, if we get this done, we're going to move into this phase and we're going to make it better. So this project will kind of help you articulate that. Okay. It helps you identify gaps. So a lot of times you'll be like, oh, we're going to have this really cool thing, and then you have no one on your team that has that expertise. So you have to kind of go to that list of collaborators that you made yesterday. It helps you kind of get a shared understanding of what your group is doing. I use a logic model all the time. I give it to people. This is my vision for what my project is. And they look at it and they're like, oh, now I know what you're trying to do. I'll give you money here. I can give you support here. I can give you something here. But if you just say, I want to build this thing, they don't know what you want them, what you're trying to do. So I just designed a course and I created a logic model and I gave it to the department. She's like, well, okay, we'll accept this course. This is awesome. I said, well, I'll write my syllabus. She said, you don't have to. I know what your course is going to look like. I can see it in this logic model. So I not only use it for my planning, but I give it to people so that I say, this is what we're trying to do. So if you're going to go to someone and you want them to host your project, this is our plan for our project. They'll be much more apt to buy into your project knowing that you've thought through all these pieces that go with that. Okay? So to develop how you're going to create a logic model, what we did yesterday was kind of that input piece. Today, I want you to just take a very short time, 5 minutes, to brainstorm in your group what your impacts are. So at the end of all this, not at the end of iLead, but the end, what's your vision for what you're going to have in the end? And those will be your impacts. Then you're going to kind of come backwards from there, and you're going to look at your outcomes and your activities. Today, we're just going to focus on the outcomes. This logic model will help you articulate your project plan, because when you come back the first Monday in June for iLead, you're going to present a poster presentation at our dinner about your plan, what you're planning to do. Do you have a question? Do you have oh, no? Okay. 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 So this will help you kind of brainstorm so that you can create your poster about your outcomes for your project. Maybe you might have 2 or 3 phases. Maybe you might have a timeline. So in the intercession between now and June, we're going to provide some instruction for you on how to develop your actual project plan based on what you can get done in this logic model. Okay? So if you don't know where you're going, you could end up somewhere else. So you really do have to define what that end piece is. In your folder for your teams in Canvas, I've placed a folder of examples of logic models, and I'll just show a few here, and then we'll get into doing some activities. Okay, so let me see. Okay, here's one that I actually did for the Marriott library. Oh, you really can't read, huh? You'll have to look at them in the folder. So this was a logic model. We were trying to design a program for looking at visual literacy, incorporating a visual literacy component into our information literacy. So we started by defining the impacts. We started an initiative. We thought about curriculum. We thought about the new standards that came out for digital literacy and visual literacy. And then we worked backwards. So if we want to be successful and do this on campus, what are we going to have to do? Okay, so that would be one example. I want to show you one with arrows, because you could kind of connect them across. They are in, there's a folder in your team area for project planning. And then I'll show you the blank template. Okay, this is a project for developing a model for course design on our campus, which actually has just been approved by a governance committee that we're going to roll it out across campus. So we are looking for a model to help faculty design curriculum. And one of our impacts, not at my last column, one of our impacts is that we wanted to integrate it into the campus process and define it so that it would become an institutional level, and that has happened because now a governance committee has approved this and said we're going to use this for all our curriculum on campus. Okay, so in the email that I sent you from Canvas is the blank logic model planning. So across the top, on the left side of the blue line is what you're going to be doing as part of your iLead project. You're going to have your inputs, and this is a logic model that I made for this program when I was planning with Matt. So we have our 3 areas over here. Collaboration, technology, and leadership is below. So we hope to impact those 3 areas. These are our outcomes. And then these are the things that we needed to do before the program actually started. So this will give you an example of what I mean by a logic model. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? This is just kind of a brainstorming tool, a strategy to help you articulate more specifically about your model. Okay, so you have a blank template. So if somebody will open their email and pull up the blank template, I'd like you to work on this last column. Impacts. The bigger picture. What impact is your project going to have? And I'd like you to take 5 minutes. So somebody be the recorder into the template and brainstorm ideas for your impacts. So you can work on this during intercession. During intercession, we're going to have some development opportunities for you in a non-synchronous way where you can go in and build a project plan. So you're going to look at your purpose of your project, your outcomes of your project, your timeline. And then this brainstorming and this logic model will help you articulate those areas. So then when you come that very first Monday, you're going to come prepared with your poster. And we're going to have a poster session with hors d'oeuvres on Monday night instead of a sit-down dinner where we'll learn more details about your project. Does everybody understand that? So you'll be hearing from us across the intercession on the details on what the expectations are for those posters. But if you go through and think about this logic model, you'll have those areas. You'll have the activities you need to do, the expertise, the collaborators, what you're going to need to do that project. Okay, and there are examples in there in your team area in, I think it's called Team Projects folder. So you can go in and look. Sometimes I put arrows. I worked with one group, and they're like, I want arrows. Like, we're going to get this NSF funding, and this funding is going to pay for training. And then we're going to develop training modules. And then those training modules are going to impact teachers in K-12. And then, so we actually made one with arrows. So it's helpful to see the vision of your project. So when you go to find collaborators, you could say, look, this is what we're going to do.